As you know, the interest rates are going up all over the world. In the Philippines, we've already seen a jump in long-term rates. Can you explain how a rising interest rate environment affects the overall? You work through the steps through which, say, a 200 basis point rise in interest rates would affect your valuation of RAL.
Thank you for that question, sir. A rising interest rate would affect the WACC to discount for Meralco. So, in our sensitivity analysis, either in a high or a low interest environment, there would still be an upside potential based on our forecast level. So, for 2012 to 2015 regulatory period, the ERC regulated WACC is 14.97. And if we assume that for the next regulatory period, there will be a low interest rate to 10%, there will be a decreasing upside potential. And on the other hand, if there's an increase in interest rate that would affect also an increase in the WACC, like 15%, there will be an increase in upside potential of a low percentage.
What about the other, like in the balance sheet? It's 70% financed by debt. What's the overall net effect, I guess, of a 200 basis point or 100 basis point increase in interest rates on the overall valuation? Is it no effect, or is it a lowering of the value?
As we go to the balance sheet component, of course, the one that will be mostly affected is the interest expense account. While aside from that, the other investments of Meralco would be considered safe.
Can you try to explain very briefly how you arrived at how you computed for the electricity tariff based on the assumptions you made on, say, the regulated law?
Tariff is computed based on the performance-based regulation. So we need to forecast first the three main components, which is the operating expense, the capex, and the regulatory asset base. So here's all the computation or components for you to derive tariff. So OPEX is regulated by the ERC, or you can estimate it by using inflation as the growth rate. Second would be the opening value of the regulatory asset base. So it's usually Meralco's power plant and equipment. So it can be seen in the balance sheet. So next it would be the capex. So capital expenditures are, we use capital expenditures from the annual report of Meralco, and then depreciation from the income statement, and then working capital, it was stated during the company presentation that is 7.8% of the OPEX approved. Next would be the capital invested, so summing up the average regulatory asset base, OPEX, and working capital. For the WACC, since it is also ERC regulated, it was stated that for this regulatory period, it was 14.97 and assumed to be decreased to 11% for the next regulatory period. And then the return on capital, to get it, you have to multiply capital invested in the WACC estimated. And then for the taxes other than income tax, for the past years, it was set at 300. And then from the OPEX report coming from the ERC, there's a taxes adjustment that we use. And then annual revenue requirement, adding all the main components to get the tariff. And then to get the tariff per kilowatt hour, or the maximum allowable tariff, you have to get the annual revenue requirement divided by the energy sales. Energy sales was also given, and then we just use a 6% growth to forecast for the succeeding years. And then the total maximum average price was to get the sum of the annual revenue requirement for the 4 regulatory periods. And then from that, you can get the average tariff for the regulatory period by averaging the tariff you get from the first step. And then the maximum average price after rate verification would be coming from the ERC.
Do you think Meralco should be in the power generation business when historically its strength has been the power distribution business? And in your assumptions of future cash flows, do you think it's value accretive continuing to invest in power generation?
Thank you for that question, ma'am. As per the current economic conditions of the power industry, since in the fourth quarter of last year, a lot of power plants have shut down. It would be profitable for Meralco to be involved in the power generation business once again. Because if we look at how the things are going now, it would be beneficial for the company.
Yeah, related to that, can you comment on management currently and whether or not they can really execute such an expansion, investing in power generation and, doing investments abroad in natural gas? Is it something that you believe they can do, and what is it about management today that makes you think they can do that? It's not enough to just have money. You've got to do it right.
Sir, we do all know that Meralco is just going back to the power generation business. It was previously already involved in this kind of business when it was under the Lopez Group of companies. And with the present management of the MVP Group of companies, it is expected that they would not be choosing matters that would reiterate what happened before during the initial involvement in the power generation.
Can you explain what the impact of retail competition in open access is on their core business?
Actually, sir, the impact of the open access regime right now is just for, there's no significant impact for Meralco, but at the same time, it's just for the advantage of the electric consumers that are exceeding 1 megawatts, and then for the succeeding 2 years, it is lower to 750 kilowatts.
What about renewables, alternative energy sources? Is that a threat or an opportunity for Meralco?
Currently, one of the renewable energy power plants that is being explored is the Subi coal power plant. As per the current news, the Meralco has been searching for other alternatives aside from this. This possibly because there would be some other alternatives that would cost the company less to generate power rather than the Subi coal power plant.
The analysis you made, I just want to understand how you perceive regulatory risk. If you're aware, another company was affected by a decision to change the calculation of their return. Without getting into the details there, let's assume that Philippine government wants lower tariffs for the Philippines, below what your assumptions are. Tell me, in your analysis, what is the floor before these guys are in the red? And tell me what makes you believe that the government will not be so drastic in their treatment of Meralco.
The issue on the power rate hike of Meralco was it just aggravated the consumer sentiments. That's why the government reacted that way. But as per our present economic condition, it would not be viable for the government to lower down the tariffs because it would not be profitable for Meralco anymore. And in this case, electricity being a necessity to the entire country would definitely mean that it needs a power company that would generate or that would distribute electricity throughout the entire area.
Time's up. Sorry. Time's up. Thank you to Century Investments. So ladies and gentlemen, that ends the round of presentations for today. So another round of applause for all the teams.